Hey, what's Mayo? Happy Lyme Disease Awareness Month. I've got my green on today, repping for my Lyme warriors. Last year I did a video series on Lyme disease awareness, and if you haven't seen that, I highly recommend it. I will link it below. Since I already did that last year, my contribution for Lyme Disease Awareness Month this year is a series on Mast Cell Activation Syndrome. No, it is not Lyme disease, but I'm a person who had chronic Lyme, and then I developed mast cell activation. I also have a friend who tragically just passed away from Lyme disease and mast cell activation. It's a series that's very near and dear to me, and I would love to spread more awareness for this disease also. If you haven't already seen the first video of this series, I recommend it. I will link it below. Or if you have already seen it, thanks for being here and tuning in for video number 2. This whole month of May, every Monday, I'm going to be posting videos for this mast cell activation series, and I would love it if you follow along. Today's video is just on what is mast cell activation. This video is made from frequently asked questions I get from everybody about what is mast cell, what are mast cells, how do you treat it, what do they release, yada yada yada. So I took all of those frequently asked questions I get all the time and I turned it into this video. This is just going to give you some basic information about what is mast cell activation and hopefully will help you understand my illness a little better. Obviously, I'm not a doctor nor an expert, so don't just take my word for things. If you want to know more information about mast cell activation, I will leave lots of links below. My series is also following along with my mom's blog series she's doing for LymeDisease.org. She's a science writer for them. Her expertise is much more in science, and mine is much more about personal experience. So if you want to know more science, read her blog series. It's great. And then that's it. I'm gonna jump right into it. The most common question I get asked by people is, what is mast cell activation syndrome? Which is a great question. I didn't know before we found out I had it. I'd never heard of it before. There are 2 types of mast cell diseases. Number 1 is mastocytosis, which is a genetic mutation where you have too many mast cells. Number 2 is mast cell activation syndrome, where you have overactive mast cells, but not too many. I have mast cell activation syndrome. My mast cells are overactive. And so since that's what I have, that's what I'm going to talk about. Usually after that, people ask me, what are mast cells? I don't know what those are. Mast cells create barriers throughout the whole body, and they're our first defense against foreign intruders. So a foreign intruder would enter the body, the mast cells would react, they would release chemicals, and the rest of the body would know how to function or react to that. There are mast cells in skin, in your organs, in the brain, they're everywhere. A cool fun fact about mast cells is they're actually a primitive line of defense we've had since ancient times. That's how our bodies used to be able to survive in super dirty or crazy conditions, which makes a lot of sense. It's pretty cool too. So now we know what mast cells are. We know that they react to foreign intruders and release chemicals, but what kind of chemicals do they release? There's a huge list of chemicals that they can release. I will list 2 examples that I think are common and people will recognize them: serotonin and histamine. Serotonin is a neurotransmitter that regulates things such as mood, behavior, sexual desire, food digestion, addiction, sleep, memory loss, appetite, motivation, all sorts of things. The list goes on and on, really. Histamine is also a neurotransmitter, and it regulates things such as the brain, gut, spinal cord, and uterus. However, I think most people recognize histamine as something that's released when you have an allergic reaction or an injury. For me, with my overactive mast cells, they release too much histamine. And so that is what I will talk about most. I will say though that not everyone who has histamine intolerance has mast cell activation, and not everyone with mast cell activation has histamine intolerance. There are all different types of chemicals that mast cells can release, and so therefore there are all different types of ways you can be affected by mast cell. So I highly recommend you doing more research and being more aware about it, because it's very vast and you could be affected in so many different ways by this disease. Another thing people ask me a lot is, what happens to you when you have too much histamine is released? And that is a long answer. I'm going to talk about that more in my next video. My next video is going to be my story. In short, though, I started having allergic reactions to literally everything in my life. Suddenly just had anaphylactic reactions to everything. The crappy and scary thing with histamine is that itself can trigger the mast cells. So, for example, something enters your body, the mast cells identify it as something that you're allergic to, so it releases histamine. The histamine therefore triggers more mast cells, and the mast cells trigger more histamine. And it becomes a vicious cycle. Anaphylaxis is also another reaction very similar to that, and it too can trigger more mast cells and more histamine. Anaphylaxis is a massive release of histamine, and so therefore it could be a massive trigger for mast cell. Both can be very vicious cycles that can snowball really quickly, and we think that's why I declined so quickly and so rapidly. It was very dramatic. And like I said, I will tell lots more about that in my next video. People commonly ask me how I got diagnosed and is there a test for mast cell activation. Like I said, I will tell more about how I was diagnosed in my next video. But there is a test for mast cell. However, it is not very accurate, sadly. Most doctors will want to test you though and get some key markers before they proceed really deeply into your health, which is reasonable. The key is to just find good doctors who will work with you and help you. That's my best advice. Because I've gotten so much better within just 1.5 years of treatment, a lot of people ask me, what did you do? How did you treat it? Well, I'm going to go into a lot more depth about that in video number 4 of this series. I'm going to share all of the ways that we turned my life around and started healing my body. It's been a very lengthy process. Since I had histamine issues, I was put on an antihistamine. So something cool to share with antihistamines though is that they don't lower the level of histamine in your body. They actually just reduce your reaction. So an antihistamine is chemically made to look like a histamine. When the mast cell is going around looking for histamine to bind to, the antihistamine comes up to the mast cell and binds to it and blocks the histamine receptor. So then when a histamine comes along, it can't bind to it because there's already an antihistamine there. You still have the same number of mast cells and histamine, but the antihistamines are just kind of blocking the reaction. The only ways to actually lower the histamine level in your body is to reduce the level of histamine you're putting on and in your body, or to go a longer amount of time without having an allergic reaction. For me, I had to do both because I was in an extremely poor health position. The longer you go without having an allergic reaction or with lower histamine levels, the more you're lowering your histamine and the more you're training your body to stay calm. 3 months is a great goal. If you can make it 3 months without an allergic reaction and with lower histamine levels in your body, great. You're retraining your body to stay calm. And then, of course, in 7 years, you'll have all new cells in your body. So if you can make it to that, essentially, you could completely retrain your whole body in 7 years. Theories. We have a really long-term health plan for me, but that's what works for me, and what works for you may be completely different. This whole series, and especially this video, is just frequently asked questions and things people want to know and things ask about my health. And hopefully in sharing, I can spread some education, some awareness, and be a voice for other people who have things that I have. And that's today's video. Next Monday, my next video is going to be about my personal story and the ways that mast cell has affected me. I'm also going to talk about my friend who passed away because we had a lot of parallels in our stories and very tragically different endings. That will be video number 3 of this series. Video number 4, like I said, is going to be sharing the ways that we turned my life around and the way that we've healed my health. Video number 5 of this series, and the last video of this series, is going to be hints and clues that looking back into my health history, we saw that I always had mast cell issues. Depending on how this series is received, how many questions I get, and if people want to know more, then I may add more videos to this series. I could branch off on something if people want to know more. So please leave comments or questions if you have anything you want to say or ask. Just leave it below. You can also find me on social media and reach out. Instagram is probably the fastest way to get a hold of me, but I will link all of my social medias in the description box below. Give the video a like if you liked it. Subscribe wherever that button is if you want to come back for more. Thank you so much for watching this video and for following along with my series and the things that I talk about. This series is very close to me and I really appreciate anyone taking the time to just learn. Please share too. Never forget that awareness and knowledge are these priceless tools we have in life that could save us or save others. We can make such a difference just by having more knowledge and awareness. So please share. My belief is that if I learn something, then chances are someone else will too. If I appreciate it, someone else will too. So if you learned something today or you appreciated some part of this video, please share because chances are someone else will too. Thank you so much for watching. That's today's video. I will be back next Monday with my next video and next part of this series. Thanks for watching. Come back soon. Happy Lyme Disease Awareness Month. Classic Mayo. I'm in a rolly chair today and I'm really enjoying it.